in Christianity, the two major denominations are Protestantism and Roman Catholics. For Islam, the two major denominations are Sunni Muslims and Shia Muslims. Now, the Shia, or sometimes pronounced Shiite, literally means the party or faction or partisans of Ali. So this isn't party as in let's all get together and have a good time over our friend Julia's house. Rather, this is the party as in political party. Think of Democrats or Republicans. And the Shias are those that believe that the Prophet Muhammad appointed his son-in-law and cousin Ali as his successor after he died. Meanwhile, the Sunnis comes from the word Sunnah. They're the people of the Sunnah. Now, Sunnah means that they focus on not so much the idea of who is the successor, but the example of Muhammad and his first followers, what they did, how they exemplified what's a good Muslim looks like, how do they practice, how they believe, how do they live their lives. So these are the people of the Sunnah, the people of the well-trodden path, the people of the exemplary first Muslims. Today, over 75% of Muslims are of the Sunni denomination, and so about 25% being those associated with Shia. Now let's take a look for a moment on this map and look at the splits. So in light green, the light green shows those areas with large Muslim populations in which are Sunni. Okay. Meanwhile, so we see Indonesia, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Central Asia, Pakistan, most of Afghanistan, Saudi Arabia, a little less than half of Iraq, Turkey, most all of North Africa. These are all countries where the grand majority of the people are Sunni, well, except for Iraq. Meanwhile, in dark green are those with large Muslim populations, in which has a large or majority Shia population. So this is predominantly in Iran itself, which since the 1500s or 1600s has been pretty much Shia in character. Meanwhile, a little over half, say about 60% of Iraq, are of the Shia denominations. And then there's also large populations of Shia in Syria, in Lebanon, as well as even in Yemen. There's a Shia sect there that's quite prominent. So if you're wondering, is this place Shia or Sunni, this Muslim majority country, if you're not thinking of Iran and the somewhat majority of Iraq, then most likely it is a Sunni country, although, as we said, Lebanon also has a strong Shia population, as well as parts of Syria does as well, and parts of Yemen. Okay, so the Sunni and Shia dispute or division centers over who should be the correct successor to the Prophet Muhammad. Remember, the Prophet Muhammad died in 632 CE, and there wasn't any sort of specific will and testament known of where he wrote down and says, this is what should happen for my followers exactly after I die. It was left up to interpretation for his followers to understand what his will was after him, and there was a great difference in opinion depending on the groups of followers. The Sunni-Shia split has sometimes, I've heard, interpreted or summarized as, well, the Sunnis wanted an election, kind of a democratic process to happen of who should be successor after the Prophet Muhammad, whereas the Shia believe that kind of monarchy of an appointment of close relative or son should happen as the successor. Now, this way of kind of monarchy versus democracy versus monarchy does have a little bit of validity, but is a little bit too much of an overgeneralization, oversimplification for our purposes for this class. And I'll explain why in a second. The Shias believe that Muhammad, in the last year of his life, on his way home from his last pilgrimage to Mecca, he, at one of his stops at an oasis called Ghadir Qum, which you don't need to know, but in case you're wondering, at an oasis he stopped and gave a public address, a kind of sermon, and during that sermon he had a number of his eminent followers with him, including Ali, and during that sermon one of the things he said was that whoever takes me, Muhammad, as their Mawla, the word is Mawla, M-A-W-L-A, it's an Arabic word that's often translated as either protector or master, sometimes as one's relation, like familial relation. Close root is sometimes often translated as friend. But whoever takes me as their guardian, protector, leader, master, me, Muhammad, that person also takes or should take Ali as their master, guardian, protector, or Mawla. As part of the prophetic hadith, the traditions ascribed to the Prophet Muhammad, what he said and did. And Sunnis and Shias don't actually dispute over whether the Prophet Muhammad actually said these words. For the most part, Sunnis accept that Muhammad said words like these, but they do dispute over the meaning of it. Now, the Shias believe that this was a clear indication that Ali should have been successor to the Prophet after he died, that Ali would be the leader, the commander of the faithful, the spiritual and political rightful heir of the Prophet. Meanwhile, the Sunnis, while accepting these words to having been said, believe that this meant that only that Ali was in high esteem, that he was an important person, important Muslim, someone that should be greatly respected, someone who the Prophet Muhammad has great affection for, but not a clear indication that he would be the heir to the Prophet. So the Sunnis believe that it was left unclear who should be the leader, and something like a practice related to pre-Islamic tribal practice, when a leader of a tribe or some clan died, the elders of the clan or tribe got together and consulted among themselves, had a council, and elected from a respected person from among themselves to lead the group after the tribal chief had died. So the Sunnis believe something like this happened according to their own traditions, their own hadith. Two of the eminent leaders of the Prophet Muhammad, who are good friends, one named Omar and one named Abu Bakr, that they met with eminent Muslims and of the community of Medina, the community of Yathrib, the place where he emigrated to and lived for the most part the last 10 years of the Prophet's life, and that Omar and Abu Bakr met with a large group of the Muslims in Medina, and Abu Bakr said words like, "Whoever worships the Prophet Muhammad, know that the Prophet Muhammad is dead, but whoever worships God, Allah, know that God is alive. And then in that gathering of Muslims, Omar basically nominated Abu Bakr to be the commander, the emir, the tribal chief after the Prophet Muhammad, and there was a large support for this among the gathering, as Abu Bakr was a very respected and esteemed Muslim and a close companion and advisor to the Prophet for most of the Prophet's mission, and so they assented to this, and Abu Bakr became the first caliph, the first represented leader, successor of the Prophet Muhammad. And after this, there were three other caliphs who were considered rightly guided or exemplary, pious Muslims. These were, so Abu Bakr being the first from 632 CE. Then after he died, within a few years, Omar took over, and the same Omar who had nominated Abu Bakr originally, and Omar lived a good number of years more and helped in the expansion of the Muslim community. And then when he died, Uthman, who was another very pious Muslim, was elected by a small council as a leader after Omar. And then similarly, after Uthman died by a small council, Ali, the very same Ali who Shias believe should have been the successor from the very beginning of the Prophet. This Ali, around 2 decades after the Prophet, was elected by the small council to be the leader after Uthman. Now, one reason why it's hard to say that, well, Sunnis believe in a kind of democratic process to elect the leader, whereas Shias believe in kind of monarchy, is that what happened after Ali is that, well, within his own lifetime, there's great opposition to Ali by eminent, powerful Muslims who believe that that there's enough splits and divisions that they could within the community, so that they can take advantage of a certain political game to actually take over leadership of the Muslim community themselves. So the main guy in this political kind of Game of Thrones was a close relative of the third caliph named Muawiyah, and Muawiyah was appointed governor of Syria, which had been a large territory taken over early in the caliphate by the growing Muslim empire. Muawiyah was a fairly educated man and a shrewd stratagem, and he manipulated things to his own benefit and was able to oust Ali and take over the caliphate himself. Now, from the time of Muawiyah through the early 1900s, when the caliphate ended up to today, it was different dynasties, different successors of the same family lineage, most often from father to son, but sometimes from to a brother, in which it passed over to. And there's a number of dynasties, the first one being the Umayyad dynasty, which was founded by Muawiyah himself. So it was Islamic monarchies from the time of Muawiyah. So they followed these caliphates, who were kings, somewhat emperors, for lack of a better word, as a political leader, was some religious authority, but the religious authority, more than the caliphs themselves for the Sunnis, lies in the learned interpreters called the ulama. And these learned interpreters are ones to have memorized and learned many of the hadith, many of the traditional utterances about the Prophet Muhammad's teaching, sayings, people who learned the Quran backwards and forwards, and were skilled at applying the precedences of the Quran and the hadith to new situations that arise, to understand in a new situation, how can you live as a pious Muslim, as an individual, as a group, what should you do, how should you do it.